Good afternoon. I've been on stages before. This is the first time that the audience can't see, and it's opposite. This is great, because I can see all your faces. So you just pretend I look like Cindy Crawford. We'll be on our way. My name is Annette Carell. I'm a Senior VP of Customer Success at eDriving. I'm here with my colleague, Bryan. And our booth is over D7, which is just off the main stage over there. So we'll invite you now to come over in case I forget to invite you later. And I did hire professional hecklers. I don't see them, but if you hear them, it's because I hired them. Yeah. So let's talk about Mentor TSP for Geotab. Really, it's just telematics transformed. And you guys are familiar with telematics. We're going to talk about how we help you augment that to develop a risk management culture, or rather, help your customers develop a risk management culture. So we become a value-add service that you can sell to your customers, working with your customers to help them get to a lower cost of ownership by directly addressing risk management. Sounds super fun. Now, everybody wants to talk about safety and risk management. It's something we've been doing for about 25 years. We know how to do it well, and that's what we can help you do. So safety data collected by a telematics company. I'm trying to stay out of the way of this because it's very tempting to stand right here. So, especially with the TV right there. So safety data that's collected by the telematics device, we're probably all familiar with, but there are some limitations to it when it comes to a risk management scenario. First of all, it's very vehicle specific. And while you can get driver level data, it may not be driver specific, right? We need to know which driver is in which vehicle. And if it's a static relationship, that's great. But if it's dynamic, it gets a little bit more difficult. And it's limited to what can come directly from the engine. As we have worked with fleet operators over the years, things that they would ask us for were, I need driver-specific data regardless of the vehicle my drivers are in. Also, is there any way to bring in positive driving behaviors? Because a good driver is a lower risk driver. Can we assess that? And what about other distractions, like the distractions on the cell phone that I know none of us in here, if you were in for the last presentation, most of us rated ourselves a 4 or a 5 good driver, which means we never touch our phone while we're driving. Wink, wink. Can we capture those and bring that into our risk management assessment? Furthermore, what about license checks, license violations or MVRs? What about historical collision or crash data? Can we bring that in? Because that is also an indicator of risk. And then, most importantly, can you put that together into a digestible format with actionable intelligence that me, a fleet operator, can actually have an impact in my business? Challenge accepted. Our award-winning performance management platform, Virtual Risk Manager, we lovingly refer to it as VRM, delivers just that. We take the behavioral insights, we turn it into actionable intelligence, and we help your customers build a total view of driver risk and help them establish and pursue a crash-free culture. It's what we've been doing for 2 decades, and we know the industry well. So partnering with Geotab gives us additional TSP data that we can bring in and bring in other metrics into that risk management component. So we have a FICO Safe Driving Score that's captured by our Mentor app. We'll come back to that in a minute. Most of you, your ears probably perked up at FICO, so we'll talk about that in a moment. We bring in Geotab Behaviors that, again, are typically very vehicle specific, although they can be driver specific, depending on whether or not you know that pairing, and go after that collision and license checking or MVR data as well. We combine it into a single risk management platform, and we give you the ability to pursue and actually create a crash-free culture in your organization. So the Mentor and the TSP behaviors, the telematics behaviors combined, we've got acceleration, braking, cornering, distraction, and speeding. The distraction component, of course, being something we can't get from telematics, but we can get it from the mentor component. We bring that together. We also get additional driving behavior from the Geotab device, idling and fuel efficiency, which is an indication of driving behavior, seatbelt use, which is an indication of driving behavior, and reversing, which if any of you have any customers with any kind of service fleet, you probably just want to rip that R right out of your vehicles, and you know you'd reduce your crashes immediately, right? So we can track that because of the telematics data that we're getting. We have, with the FICO component, we have a rolling 7-day average score. So your drivers will know exactly how they're behaving in each of the scoreable areas, and then we can work with them and work with you to help address those. So what does the mentor dashboard look like? When Chase gets up here, please ask him what his mentor FICO Safe Driving score is. Mine's 794. Please ask him. Because we have a gamification component to it. There's bragging rights within our system. But drivers know exactly where they stand. What is my current FICO Safe Driving score? How does that compare to the rest of my organization? How does it compare to the top 10% of my organization? And am I in that top 10%? And if you are, please brag. We're insufferable amongst each other if we have a high score. They also see their last trip, and they get very detailed feedback on that trip. So drivers will know exactly why they scored, what they could have done differently, what opportunities for those positive driving behaviors were missed, and then we can coach them through our modules and our playlists to help them address those driving behaviors. We also have launching very, very soon first notice of loss. So if you're in any kind of claims management, any kind of insurance, we know that there's a reduction there that's available. So Chase will talk about that in a minute. And our circle teams, that's where the gamification comes in. So or your customers, your organizations can set up individual circles with their direct subordinates or with their team members, and then it kind of creates an environment where you can nudge each other and praise each other and all that good stuff. So how is the FICO Safe Driving Score predictive of collision involvement? Is it? It sure is. And we've got the FICO team with us in our booth, so if you want to learn more about that, please stop by. They've got all they're smarter than me, so they've got all the analytical data, but it is a validated score. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that a higher FICO Safe Driving score is a predictability of a lower predictability of being involved in a collision. So the higher your score, the less likely you are to be in a collision. And they've looked at, there's a lot of data here. I'm not going to go through it. Again, the really smart people are over in our booth. Drivers with low scores are much more likely, about 2 times more likely to be involved in a collision than drivers with high scores. How does Mentor TSP address risky driving behaviors? So I touched on this briefly. Within the Mentor app, one of the things that we like to do is address the behavior immediately. So drivers, we cover the range. We assume that your drivers know how to drive and have a license. We do provide the license checking just to make sure. But we're not trying to teach drivers how to drive. We're trying to teach them how to be mindful of the right behaviors to drive. And so we have short interactive training videos, modules that play directly through the Mentor app that are engaging and hit on the types of behaviors that are going to keep the drivers mindful of the low-risk driving behaviors. So the score, it's all in the app, and we've taken it right to their hands. So they've got the score, they've got the training modules, they'll know which areas they're suffering in. And if your score is high, and you've got a low likelihood of being involved in a collision, you won't receive as much training as your counterpart who struggles. Let me turn it over. Is that you? Perfect.
I think, yep, we're working. My score is 729, by the way, Annette. So that's what we're getting to now, is the driver engagement piece. We use what's called circles for the gamification aspect. Drivers can create circles with other team members. Managers can invite their direct reports to come be part of their circle, which actually involves the manager having to walk the walk, right? So it really pushes that culture out into the company. Drivers will also receive a weekly report on all their feedback. In-app trends reporting shows week over week And coming in 2020, we have the Mentor Miles Incentive Program. This is going to give recognition to drivers that consistently stay above that 710 FICO score. This is the driver view of the trip details. So starting with the left screen here, we have the feedback of the positive and negative events. It highlights those smooth maneuvers as well, which actually help your score go back up. And it points out the missed opportunities, as Annette had spoken about earlier. You'll see that there's a map there that points out where the infractions or events happen, so the driver gets a better idea of, oh man, I didn't realize I pulled my phone out at that stop sign to check it. The Geotab Behaviors. So this is the information that we're pulling into the Mentor system. The reversing events, the seatbelt violations, the idling percentage, and the miles per gallon. Now this is VRM. This is the heart of our risk management platform. This is where we see all those different data sets get pulled together. You have the license check violations, you have the collision data, you have our online road risk assessment. And we get all that stuff together and create a list and a full overview of your entire fleet and where they stand and at what risk level. The additional modules that Annette had hit on earlier are first notice of loss. That's the first one that we're going to be rolling out this year. We had an insurance partner that did a study, an internal study, that said if a collision was reported within the first 30 days, the total cost of the collision reduced by 30%. So we found that to be really interesting and developed this around that. Also, the DVIR is going to be your pre and post trip inspections. So it's a walk around with a camera, a whole checklist. Service fleets tend to really, really love this one, and delivery fleets. And Mentor Vision is going to be paired with an inward and outward facing camera, and that's coming in 2020.
So finally, just talking about does it work? So we've got a great case study. Again, we're happy to have this conversation with you in more depth. But this is one of my favorites. We had a customer that wanted to pilot the Mentor solution, so they picked a division out of 3 divisions, a region of drivers that had the highest CPMM, crashes per million miles, right? It's common rating among insurance and certainly in the risk management world. They put this group on the Mentor VRM solution. Some of them did have telematics input as well. And we watched them for a few months. After 2 months, there was a pretty significant reduction. After 6 months, there was a 30% reduction in the CPMM in our pilot group. And we saw the non-pilot group continue to climb in the amount of collisions that they were having. They've since deployed it globally to their 26,000 drivers. And we do operate in, I don't know, every country? Okay, in every country. Not the penguins in Antarctica are out of luck, I think. So, but not only did they achieve the 30% reduction, but they've sustained it, right? It's that tools. It's not just information. We actually address the behavior. We help your customers, managers implement this. We break it down into actionable intelligence, and that's where the impact comes in. So again, we're back to, we know drivers with a FICO Safe Driving score of 710 or below, we're 2 times more likely to have a collision within the next 3 months. So my buddy here, 724, he's out of the woods. 794, did I mention that already? So these are the things that we can help you with as well, help your customers with, and this becomes a value add that you can bring to your accounts. Any questions?
Questions for eDriving? All right, well, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Khalil Bryan, reseller from Barbados. You mentioned that you had an insurance company that you were working with and you developed metrics across their platform. Did you then deploy that to their customers as an app? Did you deploy that to their customers on a web-based platform? How did that interact? Because we're very interested in doing something like that in the Caribbean.
Yeah, we have significant. We work with almost every insurance company is a customer of ours in some form or fashion. Either they're using our product with their clients, enforcing it with their clients, or bringing us their clients and saying, "Please help us, help them, help us," kind of a thing. So a lot of insurance carriers that we're already working with, and certainly ones that we can, if we're not, we'll have a conversation. So being in the risk management industry, that's our backbone. Great question.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you
Very
to
good.
eDriving
Thank
for
you.
your presentation.
Thank you.
Feel free to visit them in their booth if you have any questions later this afternoon. Enjoy Connect 2020.